Hey y'all, it's been a while since the last video, so I wanted to, I'm trying to remember where we left off. I think we left off with the shifter adjustment not working right. I ordered the Novak shifter cable, and that's in it and in my garage waiting to be installed. Door wires broke, we fixed those. So, after putting 1,000 miles this past week on my Jeep, training for work, was up a couple hours from the house, so couldn't really fix it. Driving home today, on my 3-hour drive home, I noticed the brakes getting soft. Pulled over, inspected the brakes, found one of my brake drums soaked with brake fluid, which leads me to believe that it's a wheel cylinder leaking. If you notice fluid coming out of your brake drums, it's only one of two things: either your axle seal or your wheel cylinder. You can tell when it's 80-90 or gear oil because it has a distinct smell. Brake fluid's a little more slick and a little more clear. So tonight, once the kids go to bed and I get some rest, I'm going to tear into this and show you guys how to fix the wheel cylinder. Along with that, we've got a lot hopping and popping in the next 10 days. We got an off-road event June 12th, and I've got to, if I can't fix some of the other leaks by then, we got to at least get some things done. I've got to install that Novak shifter cable conversion. I've got to mount my CB radio, wire that up. Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm exhausted right now. Along with that, we got to top off at least the front axle with fluid, top the transfer case off because I know I'm not going to have time to fix those leaks. Then, along with all that, hopefully HK Off-Road comes in with my tire carrier. I talked to Bash yesterday. That guy is outstanding as far as getting back to his customers quickly. And he said that, you know, he had a medical emergency. He had an accident in the shop, laid him up with one hand. So that, and then with stimulus checks hitting everybody, he got slammed ridiculously hard. So he's working against the tire carrier. If that comes in time, we will push to get that installed as well. I still have to figure out how to mount my sway bar and links when they're disconnected. So we got quite a bit to do in 10 days. I don't even have a list. I should probably make a list and annotate what's got the utmost importance. I'll let you guys know. Let me go into AutoZone here, get a wheel cylinder, get some brake fluid, some brake clean. You do not have to replace your brake shoes if you get brake fluid on them. You have to clean them thoroughly and catch it early on in the leak. Unless the only time I would recommend replacing your shoes if it was a wheel or a rear axle seal leaking. 80-90's nasty stuff at that point. So let me get in here to AutoZone and we'll get the parts and I'll get back with you guys. Alright y'all, so you guys can see what my brake drum looks like. Get back here. I'm sure you guys can see the back side's being wet. See that? And then down here it's even dripping on the ground. My research has showed that the Dana 35s have 9-inch drums, while the 8 1/4 have a 10-inch drum. I'm going to slide the drum off and we're going to see what it looks like inside. Alright, so now you guys can see what's going on in here. See all this wetness? Now, if this was a wheel seal, or a axle seal, sorry, you would see some heavy duty 80-90 in here. But you guys can see right in here how the wheel cylinder is starting to come apart, the rubber seal. So we're going to take all these parts off of here. You're going to start with your springs, your cables, and then get your shoes off. And when you take these off, you want to lay them out how they came off, that way you remember how they go back. And then we'll clean them thoroughly. So here's a better view of the leaky wheel cylinder. Put some pressure on this side. You guys can see it's leaking around the seal here. There's 2 bolts on the back side and a brake line. But before I get into all that, we're going to go ahead. Let me get some light on this for you guys. We're going to go ahead and clean all this crap out, because I don't want this staying. You want it clean as possible when you put it all back together. Just like all the bits and pieces, we'll pull out, put them in here, spray them down with some brake clean. Same as the brake drum. All the internal pieces. The last thing you want is any brake fluid residue on these pads and on the parts. No, you know, it also will mess up your brakes eventually. This is about 60 miles of driving with a leaky wheel cylinder trying to get me home today. So let me get this sprayed down. You guys don't need to see me washing this. You just spray it, clean it really thorough, and spray all your little parts. Once we get it nice and clean, we'll take the wheel cylinder. I'm gonna try to prevent losing as much brake fluid as possible. So my goal is to break the 2 bolts loose on the back and get it ready to pull, but leave the bolts in firm enough so I can break the brake line loose without bending or breaking anything. Because if you look back here, let's see if I can get my camera in here, my phone in here. Yes, I got the brake line here. And then we've got a bolt up here and a bolt right here. The last thing we want to do is break this brake line. So I'm going to probably spray this with some brake clean as well, trying to clean some of the threads. You guys can see a better idea of how it looks, how it was leaking. And like I said, those of you who are really vehicle savvy should know the smell, feel, and even the taste of your fluids off your vehicles. So let me get to clean this up and I'll show you guys where I'm at. So here's the old wheel cylinder. Like I said, it's got 2 little bolts. These are 10 millimeters. The brake line's a 3/8, and here's a new cylinder. 2 bolts in, secure it. What I'm going to try to do is get it put in by hand and get that line on as fast as possible so I don't lose a whole lot of fluid and get a whole lot of air in the lines. So let me get this going. You know, Duralast, AutoZone, $15. You can get them elsewhere. They're all probably pretty much made in China, unless you get OEM Mopar, and that's still probably made in China. So let me finish taking this line off. We'll swap part, get it out, and try to get this one back in. Alright y'all, so here's the final assembly. Let me get some light on this for you guys. New wheel cylinders in. Park brake setup is hooked up. Put the drum on it. We might have to back the shoes off a little bit, but we'll see how this goes. Make sure you take pictures when you take these apart. I kind of forgot to do that before doing this. I kind of just jumped in it, started hauling ass through it, took it all apart, and couldn't remember how it went back together. So, lucky YouTube has videos like bleeping Jeeps, how to do a brake drum, etc. So what I'll do is, I'm going to put the shoe on it for tonight, or the shoe. I'm going to put the drum on it over the shoes tonight, call it good. I'll bleed it in the morning. You guys can see everything is nice and clean inside. Brake pads are clean. So this is where we're leaving off for now. We'll pick this video up in the morning. So last night we left off with getting this thing back together. I was pretty tired. I probably should open it back up and double check everything. I'll try to do this one-handed for you guys. Alright. So you guys see we have the new wheel cylinder in. Everything's cleaned up. All the brake fluid's out of it. The only thing I have that I've not ever seen before is how these fingers fit in here. I used to want to have like old school style with finger plungers that come out and push on the shoe. So this ride's kind of high, and I'm hoping that's not going to be an issue. I would think it would want to be centered, but there's no way for it to be fully centered. So the ride's kind of the same way on this side too. Kind of hard to see the spring. So only test driving it will tell. I got a little vacuum pump or hand pump, old school style. We'll bleed the brakes, get it put back, tire put back on. We're gonna go for a test drive. When you set these up, the shoes, you want a slight drag on the drum. I'm probably gonna end up having to do new shoes. I got them cleaned up, but they're not perfect. So we'll just hope it gets us through at least for this next couple of weeks. There's still a lot of meat on them. I'd really hate to toss the pads, but they got kind of dirty. I went through 4 cans of brake clean. I'm trying to clean everything up last night. So, I know, not a hard fix. The biggest thing is take pictures of how you take it apart. I got screwed up because I was so damn tired I wasn't thinking clearly, and I didn't take any pictures of it. So, we are where we are. Let me get this drum back on, check for a little bit of drag, then I'll bleed it, and we'll go from there. When you guys are bleeding the brakes, you want to make sure your reservoir is full. You want to make sure you have enough fluid to draw some through without it drawing the lines dry, or else you guys got to start all over again. So let me get this going and I'll be back with you guys. Alright, so I went for 10 to 20 mile test drive after bleeding the brakes. I ended up having to do an old school pump and bleed instead of using my handheld vacuum bleeder. My handheld bleeder is about 10 years old and it finally crept out. Pretty good for Harbor Freight Special. Word of the wise, when you guys do these wheel cylinders, make sure you clean the backing plate, the axle tube behind it, and make sure that you don't have any leaks. I went to AutoZone because I thought it was leaking still, and I'd run out of brake cleaner. So I sprayed it all back down there in the AutoZone parking lot, and it's dry. I'll go ahead and show you guys how it looks back there, and then we'll go ahead and close this out. You guys can still see residual on the drum, but looking at the tire, but looking at it, so I get my camera in here. I don't see anything fresh, so we'll just keep an eye on it and go from there. This stuff is pretty nasty crap, but like I said, it's all residual. Try to get above it so you guys can see the wheel cylinder too. See how the axle tube is all clean and dry. If that was still soaked, I'd be worried about it, but there's nothing fresh, so just wanted to show you guys the afterwards. Alright you guys, so video is kind of crude, but I just wanted you guys to see what I went through. I'm going to take it to a car wash and wash the inner wheel, the tires, the rims, everything back there thoroughly later on. For now, the backing plate, the axle tube are all dry and clean, and it's stopping good. We've put a few miles on it, so tomorrow test drive will work. It's about 110 miles round trip. I haven't heard any noises today, so it'll be a true test of all rolling to work at highway speeds. Anyways, God bless and have